Hey, Mark Clark here from Village Church in Vancouver, Canada. Matthew chapter 7. Jesus is exploding all of our paradigms about how to connect to God and what we think about life and salvation and ourselves. And in Matthew chapter 7, he says, a very scary text actually, "Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness." Here's the reality. Just before this, Jesus says that there's false teachers, people who are going to lead other people astray, and that's true. But this text says something else. It says not that there's false teachers, but that there's false disciples. And they're not being led astray by other people. They're being led astray themselves because they think that they know God, but in the dark, when no one's looking, they don't actually know him. They don't delight in him. They don't love him. And so in the end, when they get to judgment, he says, I never knew you. I never actually had a relationship with you at all. You did a whole bunch of churchy things. You tithed your money, you did your devos, you went to church every day. But as one writer said, you know what? You can be born in the church, serve in the church, get married in the church, die in the church, have your funeral in the church, and still wake up in hell because you didn't actually know Jesus. You only knew about him. Here's the thing with false disciples. The Western world is full of them. There was a study recently done, a research study, where it took 10 activities, visiting pornographic websites, visiting psychics, stealing, getting drunk, all of this list of stuff. And it showed that statistically, as they did this anonymous survey, people who claimed to be Christians and people who didn't claim to be Christians did all of these activities at the exact same level, which is a massive issue because it means that our faith isn't actually impacting what we do in our life. The only thing that non-Christians did more than Christians statistically was recycle, all right? That's not a joke. So here's what you and I gotta do. We gotta go, has the gospel actually changed? Not just what I wanna do, but what I do. And how do I actually live this thing out so I know him in the dark? I actually know Jesus when no one's looking and I delight in him. It's not just duty. See, there's duty and delight. And what God wants us to do is actually delight in him, not just follow him based out of duty. Some of you are married, and some of you have learned the lesson in your marriage of duty or delight too much. Some of you, you're like, okay, my marriage is a duty. I don't necessarily like this person, but I got up in front of everybody and I'm involved in a covenant, so that's my duty. And then some of you, you're just all about delight, but you have no duty. You're like, oh, this person makes me feel good about myself. They give me butterflies in my stomach. Of course, the problem with that is once you've been married for a long time, those butterflies go away, and then you go to the grocery store and someone else gives you butterflies. And then you're like, moving on, because you have no duty, I might as well chase delight my whole life. And so in marriage, you need both of those things. You need duty and delight. It's the same in our relationship with God. Some of you are all about duty. I'll do the right things, but you don't actually delight in them. And some of you are like, hey, as long as God gives me these butterflies, but I'm not actually covenanted to him that in the midst of whatever circumstances in life I'm going to follow him, he has to make me feel good or I abandon him. That's the problem. Jesus says, if you have one of those two things, you don't actually know me and I don't know you. And so chase after who you are in the dark when no one's looking and make sure that in the end, you're one of the people that Jesus says, come in, my good and faithful servant, not one of the people who say, oh yeah, you did a whole bunch of stuff, but I didn't actually know you.